I'm going to go out on a limb now. I said it on my chat with Dom, and I stand by it. I'm going to put a prediction out. I might be horribly wrong. I think Pochettino is going to be the most successful Chelsea manager for the next 5 years.
Wow. Well, I just did a video. I just did a video on my own channel, just questioning it really, because I'm not sure what exactly Chelsea need right now. They need something, obviously, don't they? And it brings us on nicely, actually, Pochettino, because obviously you're wearing your Spurs shirt now. The news is confirmed. How do you feel? Because I feel like it was a weird one. I feel like the only person on planet Earth who didn't want Potts to return to Spurs must have been Daniel Levy, because the fans wanted it. Seemed like Potts wanted it as well. It just seemed like Daniel Levy was it. Is it a pride thing? How are you feeling as a Spurs fan after the news has come out that Poch is now Chelsea's manager?
Well, I said it with Dom a couple of weeks ago or last week, when it was. As a Spurs fan personally, of course, it's heartbreaking. But
Yeah.
I also have to be honest that, and it may be a bit into our previous conversation about, getting it wrong or having an opinion on something. At the time, I wanted Poch to go at the time. When he left Spurs, for me, we had hit a ceiling. I was the first person to say we'd hit a ceiling. We had just lost the Champions League to Liverpool. And that was probably, even then, that was on the back end of not a brilliant season. Spurs were certainly, there was some cracks starting to show. And once we lost that Champions League final, there was a group of players and a manager there that had been together for 4 to 5 years. And I felt like both Spurs and Pochettino, for his experience, had hit a ceiling. So I can't sit here and say, oh, it's break, we should have never let him go, blah, blah, because I'll be the first person to admit that for me, it was ready for him to go. Hindsight being a wonderful thing again, hindsight, I reckon that a Pochettino or Pochettino himself is the man that Spurs could do with getting back. That being said, he's gone and his stock has risen. Granted, at PSG, did it really raise his stock? I'm not too sure, but
well, he won a league, didn't he? But as I said in my video that I put out before, I think me or you could do that. I back myself.
Well, yeah.
To win Liga with PSG. I would back myself to do that if I was going in tomorrow. So I'm not sure. It's tough with Potts because he is that type of enigmatic manager that does things, and he definitely improves and galvanizes a football club. But like you say, winning in terms of winning something that is a contest, nada. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing at the minute is. It's hard because I don't even hope him to do it because I don't want Chelsea to do well, obviously.
No, me neither.
So it's that poison thing, isn't it? Where you want him to succeed because he seems like a really great bloke, but he's at Chelsea now, and he's got an absolute mountain to climb there because they've got about 40 players that don't know what they're doing. They don't know what the system is. They don't know a plan going forward. Half of them don't know where they're going to be next season because a new manager's come in. He's not going to want 40 players. He's want to trim that squad maybe in half. So he's got an absolute mountain to climb. And to hear you say that you think he'll be successful there, that shows your true love and compassion for that man because he has got a job on his hands.
Yes, I do. But I'd say that he can only have become a better manager. Let's be fair. I can't imagine he's a worse manager than when he joined Spurs. All he's got is more experience, more notches in his belt in terms of, games won, just general games he's managed that. And I thought about this before I said that. I didn't just say it, blasé. I thought about it. What he did with that Spurs team at that time, he got the best out of a bunch of okay players. I think he did get quite lucky. I think that with Harry Kane, with Son, and when he joined, when we had the two centre backs that we had in
Dele Alli at the time as well,
and Dele Alli, of course. But at the same time, you've got to work with what you got. You could say, he was lucky to have him. He was lucky to have him, but he got the best out of them. And I hate saying it, but I think that this Chelsea team, there's a reason why they spent all that money. They're supposed to be better players. Now, if Pochettino could do what he did with Spurs, and like you say, yes, there's 40 players there. He might not want 40 players, but bloody hell, I bet he'll be glad to have the resources.
To choose from, of course.
Yeah, he'll be glad to have 40 players. Imagine only having 25 players and going, right, I've got to somehow get a title challenge. Because Chelsea are they're going to want a title challenging team. Maybe not next season, but certainly the season afterwards. You know,
Mm.
they might have to sit and eat some humble pie this season. But I say I think Poch will be successful, and I think he will be, because I think that if he can get the backing, I reckon I've looked at that Chelsea squad. Yes, people have been rinsing on them a little bit. There's a good squad of players. There isn't a team. There's a good squad of players, and a manager like Pochettino. I think if he could do what he did at Spurs, I think he could turn that Chelsea team into something pretty special. And all he'll need to do is win a cup next season with Chelsea, and that'll be all he needs confidence-wise to go forward. And I'll be honest with you, look, thinking about it with Todd Bowley, I think he had no choice but to get rid of Graham Potter. I think Graham Potter was there. Graham Potter was there far longer than I thought anyone expected, which tells me maybe Bowley's a bit more. He's willing to invest more time than. So perhaps with Poch, you might give him more time as well. I'm not sure.
It's interesting with the Bowley conversation, isn't it? Because I mentioned that he promised that Graham Potter would get time, and it is a funny one, isn't it? That period of last season, because as you say, he gave him a lot longer than you'd expect from a manager, from an owner at Chelsea. Obviously, he gave him a lot longer than you expect considering the results, but he still didn't give him much, did he? Like he gave him the season. It was that bad. I'd heard that he'd mentioned he's definitely going to see out this season and go into next season fresh. But he got to the point where they could have got relegated. They were on, I think they were on 39 points for a while when the losing streak started. And should some of those teams below them have got a couple more wins, they'd have been right in within it. So I completely agree with your point that Bowley, although he promised Potter time, he got to a point where he didn't really have much choice, and he gave him longer than you'd imagine, so that they wouldn't. And a new manager at that point with those players might have been able to pick an 11 that he thinks that's my 11 and go forward and actually win quite a few more games than he did, because the Lampard experiment didn't work. And the trouble is, I remember when Lampard joined, they were all talking on TalkSport. It's a win-win for Frank. He'll go in there, he'll try and enhance his reputation back at Chelsea, at a massive club. And he barely won a game. I think he did nothing but destroy it and destroyed the morale of the 40 players that were there, because half of them weren't playing, and and half of them were underperforming on the pitch. So it's a nightmare situation for him to.
I think you've hit a valid point there, which I maybe didn't think about for a second. Is that when you talk about I'm not just saying quantity of players. Yeah, there's something I realised in the Poch has got is you've got a lot of players to keep happy, and something that's maybe a testament to Mr. Guardiola. Because when you look at, when I said it to Beth, when he brought on that Champions League game against Real Madrid, when he was able to bring on Foden, Alvarez, and Mahrez, I went to Beth and said, "This is it." I said, "This is unbelievable, right? 3 players that would get in any team in the world starting 11. Foden, Mahrez, and Alvarez would get in. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, okay, maybe each one of them might be picked by someone, but as a 3, any team would be grateful to have them as a front 3 in their starting lineup, and he can bring them on, right? Of course, you can go into the resources City have got, and that is a separate subject. But the fact of the matter is, he must be keeping those players happy. He must be keeping those players happy. So back to your point, though, is that I think you're right, is that what Poch has got, which is what Frank Lampard had, is how are you going to keep players that have come in, and I don't know the specifics of what their wages are, but these players have come into a club like Chelsea, and they've probably been promised a lot more than they're going to get.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think, and what you were saying about Frank, I agree, but I think Frank Lampard was the same thing for Chelsea as Ryan Mason for Spurs. Get someone in who knows a club. Get someone in that everyone knows. He bleeds the colours. And it's like, but that shit doesn't stick. Do you know what I mean?
No, it definitely doesn't. And you're completely right.
If you like what you've just seen there and you want to see more content like this, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TalkNonsensePod.